You learn to spot the guys that are selling drugs. They know they're selling, they know that you know they're selling, and it's a challenge to catch them. I mean, we did some hiding in trees, crawling around in the bushes. We'd climb on roofs of houses. We'd hide inside vacant apartments in the Texas heat, in uniform. Being a cop is a calling. I know everyone says that, and it is, because you know you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it. God knows we didn't do it for the money, but you just love doing it. And it was, that's what I wanted to do. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just fun. So I'm at the front taking the report, and I hear shots, and then I look over and I see Mark King shooting at somebody, and then we both start chasing out in the parking lot, and we're chasing, and it's the old, he's turning and shooting at us while we're running. I never shot at him then, because we learned in shooting and running, it ain't like the movies. You're not going to hit anything that you shoot at. I got hit in the face, the shoulder, the forearm. I mean, all I remember is the flash. And I remember laying on the ground, on the carpet in the apartment. And I remember rolling over, and I remember seeing orange. It turns out it was the bottom of a couch. You always go back to training. And I remember when I was in the academy, George Evenden and Jay Stevens telling us, if you ever go down, just move. I remember just thinking, move, you got to move. And I crawled out on the sidewalk.
You're listening to the ATO Bridging the Divide podcast, brought to you by the Assist the Officer Foundation.
Since 1999, the ATO has given assistance to the first responder community. And now we want to give them a platform to hear their incredible stories.
We also want to hear the stories of the many people that support us.
Our community is small, but it is strong.
We have differences. We don't always agree, and we all make mistakes.
But together we can grow, we can heal.
And we can learn from those mistakes.
And together we can bridge the divide.
Policeman. A policeman is a composite of what all men are: the mingling of a saint and sinner, dust and deity. Buried under the frost is the fact: less than 0.5% of a policeman misfit that uniform. That's a better average than you'll find among clergy. What is a policeman made of? He of all men is once the most needed and the most unwanted. He's a strangely nameless creature who is sir to his face and fuzz to his back. He must be such a diplomat that he can settle differences between individuals so that each will think they won. But if the policeman is neat, he's conceited. If he's careless, he's a bum. If he's pleasant, he's flirting. If he's not, he's a grouch. He must make an instant decision, which would require months for a lawyer to make. But if he hurries, he's careless. If he's deliberate, he's lazy. He must be first to an accident and infallible with his diagnosis. He must be able to start breathing, stop bleeding, tie splints, and above all, be sure the victim goes home without a limp or expect to be sued. The police officer must know every gun draw on the run and hit where it doesn't hurt. He must be able to whip two men twice his size and half his age without damaging his uniform and without being brutal. If you hit him, he's a coward. If he hits you, he's a bully. A policeman must know everything and not tell. He must know where all the sin is and not partake. A policeman must, from a single strand of hair, be able to describe the crime, the weapon, and the criminal, and tell you where the criminal is hiding. But if he catches the criminal, he's lucky. If he doesn't, he's a dunce. If he gets promoted, he's political. If he doesn't, he's a dullard. The policeman must chase a bum, lead to a dead end, stake out 10 knots to tag one witness who saw it happen but refused to remember. The policeman must be a minister, a social worker, a diplomat, a tough guy, and a gentleman. And of course, he'd have to be a genius, for he will have to feed a family on a policeman's salary. Paul Harvey, 1970. Welcome back, ATO fans. Today I'm joined by the great Misty V and Randy and a very special guest co-host, Deputy Chief Jeremy Foy. The definition I just read was from the great Paul Harvey. It defines a policeman. I really believe that today's guest embodies that definition. Born in San Antonio, Sam Houston State grad, started in DPD in 1988, one of the most violent years for Dallas PD. He's been a Cops Cop Officer of the Year award winner, 2-time Dallas PD Medal of Valor winner. It is my honor to welcome on the great Lance Crawford. Lance, thank you so much for being with us. It's an honor to sit with you.
Thank you.
And a little mention to our special guest co-host, Deputy Chief Jeremy Foy. Here's a little sidebar. Whenever we recorded his episode, he just found out he got promoted, but he hadn't promoted quite yet. He was like a week and a half off, so he was still technically a major. Now this is the first time he's actually a deputy chief, and he's here with us.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Usually when people bring in a big fish for a guest, I say, come on in and be a part of it. And you were able to catch us, Lance, over here. So thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. You ready to get into this?
Let's do it.
All right. You were born in San Antonio, but moved to a small town. Where'd you go to after San Antonio?
Well, New Berlin, Texas. Population 188 people. Very rural town. South Texas, if you know where Seguin is, Texas Lutheran College is there. That's about the only big thing. It's close to that. Small little 2A school. Marion High School is where I went to school. FFA was big. Farming, welding, stuff like that. Yeah.
We had that in Quinlan, Texas when I went to high school there, but it sounds like New Berlin kind of won up them in a small town.
It was pretty small. We did not have a post office, but we did have a community center and one beer joint.
That's all you need?
Yeah. A Dairy Queen?
Not even a Dairy Queen.
Damn.
No, that's how small it was. Yeah.
Did you go to Lake McQueenie?
Went to Lake McQueenie a lot. Yes, that was yes, yeah. Landa Park and New Braunfels and all that stuff. Mm-hmm.
And Landa Park is a lost gym. I don't think it's open anymore, but I used to go there all the time.
Did you really?
Yeah, because I grew up in San Antonio too.
Okay.
Yeah. But that was a great place with they had this little shit carnival with a little rope. It was.
Are we allowed to cuss?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for
I always cuss.
tags. Yeah, are we allowed? Yeah. We're a bunch of people over 40. We can do what the hell we want. And you're retired. You can really do what you want.
But yeah, Landa Park, a lot of fun.
Great place.
Mm-hmm.
All right, where'd you go to college?
Sam Houston State. Shout out to my national champion, Sam Houston State Bearcats.
Yeah, shout out.
Yeah, that's right. My kids love it when I say that because A&M's it's been a long time since they've won anything. So
Randy,
settle down.
Sorry, Randy. What was your major there?
Criminal justice.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah,
you found that a little useful, right? Later on.
Yeah, that was I could have got a degree in medieval history and still been a cop. So
hey,
yeah.
So is that where you went on your ride along? You apparently had a ride along that impacted you early on.
No, my first ride-along was when I was in high school.
Okay.
And I went out with the Guadalupe County Sheriff's Department.
Tell us about that, because I read your bio and it looks like that kind of made you think this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I was trying to think of one specific time when I had this epiphany that I wanted to be a cop. I don't know when that was, but it was when I was a senior in high school. I went on a ride along with Guadalupe County Sheriff's Department, late nights, midnight to 8 shift. And, of course, you can imagine it was getting cows out of the road and one burglary report. Someone got a tractor tire slashed or something like that. But it was just that we were out there. Everything was so new, and you met different people, saw new stuff the whole night, and we actually ate breakfast with some state troopers at a Denny's, and I talked to them, and they just talked about how it was. You always saw something. It was something different every night, and it just lit a fire, and that's what I wanted to be. And then I think it was the troopers who mentioned Sam Houston State, because back in the 80s there were only like 2 criminal justice colleges in the country, and it was Michigan State and Sam Houston State. They were the only 2. And of course I wasn't going to go to Michigan State. And so I got with my school counselor, and I did a few trips and fell in love with Huntsville, Texas, and that's where I ended up going. So
early on, what did you believe a police officer to be, the qualities? And what quality do you think at the time you felt best described you? Just from
the Marion cops and the one New Berlin cop that I knew, they were just good people. They reminded me a lot of my dad, just good, all around honest people, and that honestly wanted to. I know it's cliched, wanted to go help people, but that's what they wanted to do. You wanted to stand up you wanted to be the person that stood up against the bully in the neighborhood. And I just felt like, they say being a cop is a calling. I know everyone says that, and it is, because you don't do it. You're not doing it for the money, and you're doing it. God knows we didn't do it for the money, but you just love doing it. And it was, that's what I wanted to do. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just fun.
I do it for all this money that I'm making here. So you went to Sam Houston. So growing up in a tiny town and going to college, how much of a culture shock was that for you?
Big. Tiny little, like I said, I had a graduating high school class of 49 people. And so when I went to Sam Houston, which, yes, it's not UT or A&M, but it was still a big school, 30-something thousand students. And so my first class, I remember going in as a biology class, and it was in an auditorium, and there was like 150 kids in there. And I was literally shell-shocked. I'd never seen anything like that. And, as you know, college professors, they're getting paid whether you're there or not. They lay out your syllabus, say, here's what's going to happen. You keep up, or that's just the way it is. And I struggled my first semester. I made some C's and B's, no A's, and my dad couldn't understand why that was happening. And I said, Daddy, it's different. I'm not used to this, and I got used to it. And before long, you settled in, and I moved up. I made a few A's after that, so.
A's aren't necessary to graduate.
No, they're not. I only take a C. But,
there's only one A in diploma.
When you were at Sam Houston, what did you think of Dallas PD, and what was your impression, and what drew you to apply here?
Sam Houston pushed Dallas PD a lot. I had one professor, I remember his name, I had to think about it last night, but his name was Jerry Dowling. And I just remember I had several classes with him, and it was all Dallas. Go to Dallas, Dallas this, Dallas that. And it wasn't until I hired on with Dallas that I found out that Sam Houston had started a remote learning program. This is obviously in the 80s, there was no online learning back then. But Sam Houston would send professors up here so that DPD officers could get their, and I say DPD, I'm assuming other agencies could too, but they could get their degree and not have to drive to Huntsville every day. And that was new. I mean, not a lot of places were doing that. And so that made most of the professors at Sam Houston, they just always sang, because they were making trips up I-45. And so they could see that Dallas was very, even back then, they were very, they had a lot more technology than other cities. Even Houston, Houston was only 40 miles away, but yet it was all about Dallas. And, and so they always pushed it. Even though at Sam Houston, I mean, being it was criminal justice, every department and agency in the United States was advertised there. The professors always talked about Dallas, and so a lot of us came up here.
What was your impression of Dallas? So, I mean, did you ever see the Dallas TV show?
Yes, watched it all the time.
Oh,
yeah.
Did you really?
Yeah. Shot JR. Yeah.
JR Ewan fan or Bobby Ewan fan? Who'd you like more?
I was more JR fan.
I did too. He
Yeah.
was just the devil.
Yeah.
So when you were in school, did you think about going home, or where was your mind when you were getting ready close to graduate about where you wanted to go?
Well, I did apply with Austin PD.
Mm-hmm.
They were actually the first agency I ever applied with, and I applied with them when I was a junior in college. And I always remember I was number 40 on the list, and they hired 21, so I didn't make it. And then after that, another thing, the professors always told us, start applying early and apply a lot, because you learn the application and you get better at applying. You learn what to say, how to say it, and all that. And so Austin was kind of a trial run. But then the other big thing about Dallas was, as we all know now, and I think we're the only ones to do it, you do everything in 1 week. Whereas with Austin, I had to keep going back and forth. When I came to DFW, I applied with Dallas. And while I was in Dallas doing my 1 week, I also applied with Richardson, Irving, Farmers Branch, Carrollton, Arlington. But all of those made you, they said, okay, we'll call you in 2 weeks, and you have to make another trip. Make another. Whereas Dallas, you were done. Took 4 days, and I was finished, except my background. And then you just wait. And so Dallas always had that figured out, the fastest way to hire people.
Well, in San Antonio, they were down there, and one of my instructors said, hey, just see what it's like, go through the process, get your feet wet. And I did that. Next thing you know, I was getting hired, and they did everything on site down there in San Antonio.
They'd figured it out?
Yeah, they had it out. I mean, this was several years later, but they did it all down there. I didn't even have to come up here. Only came up here for my psych test.
In San Antonio, right around the late 80s, it would have been right as I was graduating college. That's when they got the big collective bargaining agreement, which made them like the second highest paid department in the nation. And so every cop wanted to go work down there. Yeah. And I just knew. And
that process was tough. I remember watching the news. They announced a test. People would get in line just to take the test, and it was a really competitive. Taking that the civil service test, it was wild how long it took people to get hired there, mm-hmm. and the fire department was the same way.
You hired on in 1988. What month did you graduate?
November of 88.
No, so at the end. 1988 was one of Dallas PD's worst years. We lost 5 officers. We lost Officer James Allen Joe, Officer John Glenn Chase, Officer Gary McCarthy, Officer Walter Williams, and Senior Corporal Lawrence Cadena. I believe Williams, he was killed while you were in the academy.
On my birthday. Yeah.
Oh wow! Yeah. When you were a rookie, and in your class, and being a young man, and coming to a city that looked like we were under attack from a police, what were y'all thinking, and how were you when Williams was killed? How did the academy tell y'all, and what was y'all's reaction? What was yours?
Well, first, Excuse me. We actually lost 7.
Wow.
Well, everyone, because Sandell and Fleming were.
That's right.
In a 12-month period, we lost 7 officers.
Yeah.
But
that was a car wreck. And
yeah. Mm-hmm. And but Captain Rick Stone was was the commander of the academy when I was in the academy, and I remember him coming in and at that morning and telling all the rookies, all of us, what happened, and he was real blunt. He's like, y'all are going out there into a dangerous world, and you're expected to stand up and fight, and bad things happen. So let's get on with class, and then you just move on. And there wasn't a lot of talk about it in the academy that I remember. It was just like it's an unfortunate and a horrible part of this job, but it happens.
Yeah, it happens. But that particular whole year was just
thank God that year never happened again. But
thank God. I was talking to one of the first responders that when Chase on his deal, when Chase got killed out there in that parking lot, that was terrible. I mean, everybody. I mean, we know what happened. A lot of listeners probably have no clue. I'm going to eventually get that first responder on. Nancy Barden, she described showing up and finding him there. So, and then what happened to him when at that time in Dallas, there was a lot of anti-police rhetoric that was going on, and there was a lot of people. There was basically a mentally ill person fought him and got his gun, and they had a pretty bad knockdown drag out in that parking lot on Commerce, and got his gun, and basically he's begging for his life, and the guy, and there was a lot of citizens that were urging him on to shoot, and that's what happened.
Yep.
The death of all these officers, that make you question your career choice at this point?
No, it really didn't. I mean, like I said, I don't really know. I had no law enforcement in my family, and I had no military in my family. I don't know why. I just wanted to be a cop, and I just figured.
How about anybody else in your class? Was there any wavering, or were they all pretty headstrong, or any concern, or was just?
We had one girl that a few weeks later quit the academy. She never said why. I assume that had something to do with it. But we did have one girl that did.
Randy, I don't know if you remember, we had a female after Brown got killed out there on that traffic stop when we were in the class.
She quit. Was that Gray girl?
Yes, Gray.
Really? I never knew that was why she did that. She gave me pots and pans.
Oh, there you go.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, we've got something out of it.
Let's move on.
What kind of pots?
Yeah.
Were they Teflon?
No, they were better what I had. I had nothing, so I had something afterwards.
Well, at least she's still in your thoughts.
Yeah.
Lance, after you graduated, what part of town did you go to?
I went to Northwest. We were, but back when we were on Shorecrest, the station was on Shorecrest, Bachman Lake.
What kind of work did you gravitate towards?
Chasing dope.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
That's like a common theme here with everybody here in this room. Chief Foy over there. What'd you like about that? What the excitement, the physicality, the challenge? What was it?
It was a challenge. It really was. And
hey, you know what? We've mentioned chasing dope all the damn time in all these episodes, even going back to Misty's episode. That was one of her big lines in the damn opening, chasing dope. Mm-hmm. Can you, tell the listener, I mentioned tell the listener what that actually is and what that means when you're out there in patrol.
It's trying to catch.
Describe how Northwest guys did it compared to Southeast guys.
Yeah.
Well,
I want to know. Yeah.
And so the listener knows there's usually only a small group of officers that do it, and you know where your street dealing drug dealers are, it kind of goes back to a little bit of beat policing. You know the neighborhood, you know who's supposed to be there, who's not, and you learn to spot the guys that are selling drugs on the street. They know they're selling. They know that you know they're selling, and it's a challenge to catch them. And so it involves. I mean, it involves some. I mean, we did some hiding in trees, crawling around in the bushes. We'd climb on roofs of houses. We'd hide inside vacant apartments.
In the Texas heat.
In the Texas heat.
In uniform.
Full uniform.
Here's a good one. I guess I can say this now. It's been 30 years.
Say whatever you want.
Okay. One night we had there was a whole bunch of guys out selling drugs, and it was our usual crew and of guys, and we were trying to figure out how to catch them. And we thought, let's go to the station, and we'll grab some keys to one of the deployment pickup trucks. Okay. And so.
Somebody was telling a very similar story earlier today.
Oh, it gets better. Oh, it gets better.
It was an Astro Man.
It gets better. So we get the keys to the pickup truck, and we go by the fire station there on Lombardi, 43 station. And back then the DFD supplied the firemen with these really nice denim jackets to wear. I guess they were fireproof, I don't know, whatever, but they had no markings on them.
Denim. Huh.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they don't know what denim is. But so we borrowed.
It's badass is what it is.
So we borrowed a denim jacket from one, and I put it on to cover my uniform up. And I drove the truck, and 5 cops laid in the bed of the pickup truck, and we drove right up. And when the guys came up to sell me dope, because they didn't, I was all covered. They jumped out of the bed of the truck, and the chase was on. And the whole point was to grab as many guys as you could before they threw their dope down, and you grab them. And yeah.
Lance, you know what's so amusing about that story? Before you walked in, probably 10 years after the fact, Joe King and Misty over here are doing the exact same thing, and just a different location, right? And they were telling that story before you came in, and I mean, cops don't change.
Is Astro Man? No. You know what? I got to say, though, I don't know if that's going on now.
No, I doubt. I seriously doubt it's going on now.
Chief Foy squirming over there. He's like, damn, better not be.
No. No, and there's and it's funny when, and I'm sure we'll get into this later on but when you get out of the state and you start talking to other cops around the country, and you start talking about stories.
Yeah.
It's the same stories, whether it's in Midland, Texas, Pennsylvania State Highway Patrol, Montana. It's the same type of stories. That's why we're all one big brotherhood. No matter where you go, it's the same stuff.
Those are the best stories, though.
Oh yeah,
right? And
they're not lies. Those are the truth. I mean, they're
not. And that's some listeners. I'll embellish. No, there's nothing embellished.
No.
Who are some of your old running buddies? You give them a shout out.
Rich Emberlin was my first partner. He and I kind of started our own little hook books and all that stuff, and the hook books. Yeah.
Can you describe what that is?
A hook book was either a extra whip out book or a steno pad that you kept track of your criminals, your drug dealers, felons, and you kept their names, their pictures, their birthdays, their alias names, their mama's names, their brothers and sisters' names, their addresses, the cars they drove.
Nicknames,
street names, so that you could find them again, like when they were wanted, or if someone asked you if someone had a street name, I can't think of one now, but you could go back to your book and help them out. So, well, that guy's real name is this, and but anyway, Rich, and then Scott Eggleston, Egg, was my longtime partner, and we had a good reputation out there, and had a good time. Yeah, so.
That's what I remember. What you mentioned before. You told a very, I question the truth of that story you said off air about the first time that I interacted with you at the jail, but
I probably don't want to go into that.
It's all
story
true.
here.
It's all true. No, I don't recall this. You said that I came up and first time I'd ever talked to you, and I showed you a very unfortunate pic, and it still to this day is burned in your
memory. Yes.
Well,
yeah.
You're not the only one that's happened to.
Yeah. No, but I would see, we would always see each other at the gym.
Yeah.
And you would see the same people from Southwest, from Northwest, South, South Central wasn't open at that time. We all would see each other there.
Yeah.
But you and Egg were always
it was
same damn time we were.
You go. It was and my wife was the same. She was up there. She chased dope in West Dallas with her partners, and you saw the same people. Because, like I said, every station had their group that did it, and I'm not saying because there were some cops who loved to work wrecks. Awesome, you guys go work wrecks because we didn't like working them, but some guys like doing that. Some just wanted to answer calls.
Some like DWIs. Some
DWIs.
Just
everybody, and that's one of the things about a big city like Dallas. And if that's what you wanted to do, you could find a way to just do that, But yeah, same group of guys. That's how we all knew each other, and so much fun. So much fun.
Lance, so everyone that I ever knew that chased dope, right, they had a shelf life for the most part. There's only a handful that didn't.
Yeah.
You and Egg were ones that didn't, because the time I came on, you were pretty much a veteran officer, and you were still going to jail all the time. That's where I first met you, right? King was the same way. I mean, you didn't leave that type of work for many years. What kept you in the game?
What kept me doing that?
Yeah.
Because it was fun.
Well, but most officers, they do it for a couple years and then they move on to something else.
And then they live off same war story for the next 20. Yeah.
At the time, I did not want to be a sergeant. And in the long run, this ended up hurting me, I guess. But I was having so much fun doing that stuff, I didn't want to stop doing it. Now, eventually what stopped me was the birth of my first child. Because then you go, wow, that stuff's pretty dangerous that I'm doing out there. Maybe I need to. And so I slowed down when that happened. And even Egg, my partner, he'll tell you too. He said, yeah, I remember when your son was born, all of a sudden you were letting me be the first one in and all that. Yeah. And so things changed. Yeah. Did that answer your question, or was there?
Oh, no, that's it.
Okay.
I know that feeling with the child coming into the picture.
And the practical jokes were also on Third Watch.
Yeah.
Well, that's a whole nother world.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
Misty and I have done that
Things
a few
you can't
times
do
to each
now,
other.
so.
Practical jokes. Like hay in the
to play.
yeah.
Yeah, like hiding lockers in the parking lot and putting ducks in the back seat of cars and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not in the that's not just in the movies. That shit actually happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you mentioned you never become a sergeant. You didn't want to take a supervisory role. You became an FTO in 1995, right?
Right.
So can you explain to the listener what an FTO is? There's a lot of non-police that listen.
FTO stands for Field Training Officer. In DPD and most agencies, when rookies get out of the academy, they get put with a field training officer for a designated amount of time. In Dallas, it's 6 months. In Dallas, it's broken up between 3 different field training officers. And anyway, you are there to field train or to do daily observations.
A mentor
For these usually young officers. Sometimes you have older officers that come through. And just help them take what they learned in the academy and live it on the job. Take the rules that are applied and actually use them.
What did that mean to you to be a FTO? I mean, and what style did you kind of use? Because we have some just screaming type of FTOs. We have patient. We have some FTOs just aren't as good of a conveyor of a message or teacher. What did you do?
I took out of my Eddie Crawford was the trainer that I had that And I think Eddie, I'm not going to upset him when I say this, I really didn't learn a whole lot of police work from Eddie. I learned some, but the main thing I learned from him was how to deal with people, how to turn the squad car into a learning environment as opposed to a screaming environment. You know, I never yelled at rookies in public. I never talked down to them in public. I never talked to them around other officers. I surely never did it in the field around citizens. If you had to scream and chew out a rookie, and there was a few I had to yell and holler and cuss at, but I did it when it was just the rookie and I together. And and let me get back up a minute. In '95, when I started training, I really was too young, and I should not have been training back then because, you know, we just got in the car and let's just get them in a fight every night. Well, you know, you should, yeah, it's fun, but you shouldn't do that. You should be out there teaching. And I didn't really get into being what I thought was a good field training officer till later on, when you kind of settled down and realized, hey, I've got a job. I'm not here to just show off that I'm a senior officer. I need to teach something, you know. And that's what I started doing, and I loved it. I loved being a field training officer most of the time. Every once in a while you had a rookie that made you drink a lot, but yeah.
What did you get from it, of knowing that you are putting together a better human being and a better officer for their future?
It made me feel like I was doing my job, like I was the way I felt like policing should be, where you know, earn the respect of the citizens and things like that. You imparted that, and you hoped that the recruit you were teaching would take that. And I really felt like, and then what any FTO loves to hear is from a recruit that you trained 5 years ago, for them to come to you and say, hey, something that you taught me, I did that with my recruit, or that's what got me through this situation, or something like that. And it makes you feel good that, hey, they actually listened to me. And
could have saved a life.
Yeah.
Probably, I'm sure you have.
Yeah.
I want to talk about an incident in November 2001. You're working an extra job. We've already had on Detective Jancy, and he talked about his partnership with Kevin James, and you were working at an extra job that night. And can you kind of describe to the listener, because Kevin wasn't there the night at that. He was his partner with James, and you were actually at that club at DMX. Can you talk about that whole scene and just kind of paint the listener a picture of what happened?
Definitely the worst night of my life. It's really cold that night. We were working an extra job. It was myself, Sergeant Mark King, Officer Clarence Lockett, and Kevin James. Clarence was actually my partner at work. We were actually assigned to the community policing unit together at the time. So we were actually partners. And so that night, it's about 2 o'clock, and the owner of the bar had called me up to the front door because a girl had got beaten up inside, and he wanted me to take a report on her getting assaulted. So I'm standing at the front door taking the report, and it was an elevated porch or front door, and at the bottom of the stairs it was the valet parking, 20 feet away from us. And so I'm up there by myself. Mark King is right at the bottom of the stairs, and I didn't know where KJ and Clarence were, because the way the night would work is 2 officers stayed in the back parking lot and 2 stayed at the front. And Mark King and I were at the front. And so around 2 o'clock, KJ and Clarence had come to the front. And once that's just what they did. So I assumed I didn't know where they were. And so I'm at the front taking the report, and I hear shots. And that wasn't uncommon at that bar. Heard shots. People shot in the parking lot a lot. But these were right close. I mean, you could tell they were like right behind me. So I remember the owner of the bar, he just turned tail and ran back inside. And I remember getting on all fours and crawling trying to crawl down the stairs, trying to figure out where the shots came from. And I looked over, and you can hear the shots, and there was multiple shots. And then I look over, and I see Mark King shooting at somebody. And once again, Joe, they're as close as the end of this table. And I can see him shooting in a direction. It's like, holy shit, you know. So I get up and run to Mark, and then we both start chasing what ends up being Licho Escamilla out into the parking lot. And we're chasing, and it's the old, he's turning and shooting at us while we're running. But I never shot at him then, because we learned shooting and running, it ain't like the movies. You're not going to hit anything that you shoot at. But I remember we chase him across the parking lot, and he runs over across the parking lot there's two Suburbans parked back to back, and he starts trying to carjack two girls in the first Suburban. And so Mark and I are yelling, screaming at him, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun. But we couldn't shoot him because he was engaged with two females. Mm. Well, we didn't know that the Suburban behind them had the brothers of the girls that were in that Suburban. So they get out of the Suburban, and they run up and tackle Licho. So now and once again, we didn't know, you know, you talk about chaos. And so there's a pile of bodies. They roll in the street, and Mark and I are still screaming, and we see the gun slide across, and then we see Licho pick the gun up, and he's about to shoot the brothers. And that's when Mark and I shoot him. And I shot him in the hip, and Mark shot him in the chin. And he goes down. We run over. We jump on top of Licho. Mark grabs the gun. No, I'm sorry. Mark didn't grab the gun. One of the brothers grabs the gun, and he's about to shoot Licho while we're on top of Licho. And luckily, we were able to scream and holler at the brothers to stop, and they put the gun down. And so we get the gun, we handcuff Licho, and literally Mark and I are, because we have no idea what's happened back at the front door. And we like do this. We check each other, see if we have bullet holes. We high five. We're like, all right, we got him. You know, we got this guy. And then we hear the sirens, because I had been on the radio calling for cover, and we're in the street. We're in the middle of Spangler Road, and these squad cars are driving right past us, and we're going, what the fuck? Why isn't anyone stopping for us? You know, and they're not, and we don't know why. And finally, Robert Viaba, he stops, and we're like, man, thanks. And he's like, y'all go ahead and go help over there. I'll take this guy. And so Robert loads up Licho, and that's when we go back to the front door, and that's when we found out KJ. You know, I go up and they start telling us at the scene that KJ's been shot and Clarence has been shot, and Mark and I are like, what the, we're just like, what the fuck is going on? And Clarence is screaming bloody murder because he got shot in the hand, and so I have to go over and literally shake him to get him to calm down. And that's when I go over and I remember seeing Egg, my old partner, doing trying to do CPR on KJ, and that's when I looked down and I saw, he didn't have much of a head left, and it just went down. I don't know what else to say. We sat in the car. Egg was with me, and hang on a second. And so after, so I see Egg doing CPR, and then of course, then we have to start clearing the parking lot because they were going to they had to get an ambulance in there, and of of course, KJ was dead at the scene. And I remember it was raining cops. Some sergeants got there, took over the scene. And then, of course, since Mark and I were involved in shooting, we got put in cars by ourselves. And, waiting for the lawyers and stuff to get there. And Egg was my companion officer. And this is when I'll probably start crying again here in a minute. He said, I remember him sitting there and going, hang on, I'll get through it. You don't have to stop. Let me get through it. He said, man, you and I worked out here all this time and all those shots. And when you got on the... Hang on, I'll get through it. He said, when you got on the radio and started calling for cover, he said, I could tell there's something different. So anyway, I remember Egg saying, when I heard you calling for cover and putting that foot chase out, there was something different in your voice. And that's because he was going home that night. He had turned his keys in. He was working that night. And I remember he told me, he said he had put his keys down, and he heard me, and he ran back and got his keys and sprinted down the hall and came out, and he was one of the first ones there. And he talked about having to scoop the dip of Copenhagen out of KJ's lip so he could start trying to do CPR. It was horrible. But no, they put us in the cars, and we waited on the attorneys, and we did walkthroughs. And I remember that whole night, cell phones were relatively new back then, and I kept trying to call my wife, who's an officer also, and tell her, and she didn't. Turns out she wasn't answering the phone because our daughter, I think, was having anyway, she had to go upstairs and sleep with our daughter because she was having bad dreams or I don't know what, but she wasn't by the phone. And so when she got up in the morning, she saw the 50 billion messages I left. And I remember telling her, I'll be home. They're going to cut me loose here in a little bit. And I remember driving home and getting out there in the parking lot, and she just hugging her in the parking lot, and KJ's dead. And like, oh, geez. And he was the first good friend that I ever had that was killed in the line of duty like that. Just a horrible murder. And so anyway.
Lance, I was in the academy when that went down. I was the first officer, obviously, that had been killed, and then they came and talked to us repeatedly. In all your years as a cop, was that the first time you had to use your gun?
Yep.
And it wasn't chasing dope?
And it was not chasing dope.
It's amazing.
Let me ask you this.
No.
Had you known what happened prior to you catching up to him, would things have ended differently?
Probably. And let me touch on something else. Mark King and I had to listen to that a lot from other cops. Why didn't y'all kill that sumbitch out there?
If you don't know, you don't know.
You have to explain. We thought the guy was shooting in the air. We didn't know anything happened back there, And then the other one that drove me nuts, and there was officers when the funeral was over, things were all settling down. Guys were going back to work. Of course, Clarence, my partner, he had been shot in the hand. He didn't go back to work because his hand was jacked up bad. And I started hearing rumors that people were questioning why Clarence didn't do anything. And I never forget this, and I won't say this officer's name, but he worked Love Field at the time. Someone told me it was just one certain officer. And I remember driving out to Love Field and confronting him and saying, what the fuck are you doing, And he backtracked and apologized. Said Clarence had been shot in the hand, and he just watched his friend get his head blown off, And he was like, he did everything he could. He could not physically, and this officer apologized, and
Lance,
but that's what goes on.
On my deal, we had people questioning why we didn't kill the guy.
Yeah,
fuck them, right?
Right.
They weren't there. They can't Monday morning quarterback you. All right, they can't.
And that's the way when everything comes, and maybe that plays into why I started teaching and talking about it more, because then you could start telling everybody, hey, this is why, because we did not know, what happened until too late. And
I hope you don't think I was questioning. I just
no. Because people need to know that
y'all didn't know what had happened. So.
When I would teach at the academy, we would part of the lesson was when horrible incidents like that occur, you as an officer have an obligation to get the full story, and I mean the full story before you start making accusations or whatever. You need to know everything that happened from the eyes of the people that were there before you start saying you should have done this or Monday, before you start Monday morning quarterbacking. So,
from a department standpoint, as far as availability of psych services for people that were involved in critical incidents like that, were everybody there, you're still affected. You're still affected to this day.
Yeah.
What did the department have anything set up that you took advantage of to maybe, like, as opposed to recovery?
Back then it was a joke.
Yeah.
We were told to visit Dr. Somadavia. We saw him one time. It came down to, are you sleeping good? Yeah. Okay, you're good to go. And that was it. They did send, after KJ's shooting, they sent Dr. Somadavia and a couple of other doctors to our community policing unit, because we had KJ and Clarence were both in that unit. We were all in that unit, and there was about 10 of us. And they sent a couple of psychologists or psychiatrists. Yeah. I'm not sure which, to talk to us. But it was, as we all know in here, you got to pry that information out of cops. You got to make them talk about it. And they did not. It was, how y'all doing? Everyone doing okay? Okay, see you later. And they walked out.
Did it feel like a just half-assed check-in-the-box thing?
Yeah. I do think today they've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, it's better.
Compared to what it was, it's gotten a lot better.
Well, an officer's mindset and their approach to being more self-aware, that's gotten better as well too. That me being affected by this so much is normal, right? As opposed to being weak, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all tough men and women.
Well, nowadays I look at when you watch on the news and they show a police shooting wherever, and the news just nonchalantly says, like the most recent shooting down in Duncanville that just happened.
Yeah.
They nonchalantly say, and the officers killed the guy in the parking lot, move on. You go, well, wait a minute. The officer that just killed that guy has to live with the fact that he took a human life. And no matter what situation, you still have to live with that. And you can hide that, and that's still hard to live with. You got to figure out a way to live with that. Even if you do it it had to be done, but you still have to live with a very traumatic event.
I think that's one of the biggest misperceptions, or that's normal citizens think that we want to kill people, or that it happens. It's no big fucking deal. I mean, we're human beings, and it's not like they act like we're just going around there executing people, and it's not the truth, because it takes a toll on people 20 plus years later being involved in something like that. Fortunately, I never had to do anything like that, but I can't imagine what people go through when they do that.
Well, the great Chris Webb, he talked about in his episode that he's been on with our SWAT members that he didn't have to pull the trigger himself, but he had been on with his teammates that did, and he saw the effect of that individual and just the whole team during that time, and it's real.
Yeah.
Lance, would you have been receptive to mandated treatment back then?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I would have. I know, because it was, I now with the training that we get in the academy, or that we would get from in service when they tell you about all the symptoms of, I guess you can say, post-traumatic stress. I look back, and I had every single one of those symptoms back then.
And I know, we haven't. Well, I want to ask questions about it later on, but I know you've been involved with the ATO over the years with fundraising and doing different things. Do you know how soon after this shooting, the ATO started the counseling, and were you able to take advantage of that then, or do you recall any off the top of your head?
No, there was nothing back during this shooting in 2001.
Well, I know, but afterwards, I know ATO started that. But do you know of anything that happened since you were palling around with Eddie at the time, and it did
nothing that I was okay. Involved. No, I don't. Mm-mm.
All right, we're gonna jump right into another shit situation you found yourself into in 2003, right?
Yep.
You're out still,
chasing dope.
Chasing dope. Okay. Can you tell us
it was fun.
Yeah, it was fun and it's fun until it's not.
Yeah,
but
everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Yeah, right, Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Can you tell the listener what happened and why you were chasing dope in 03?
Well, I had Egg and I laugh about this all the time now, but I had got crossways with a sergeant that I was working on the day shift with, and I got and I quit, and I went to Deep Nights, to work with Egg again because he was my favorite partner. And I said, let's go back to work together. We're going to have fun chasing dope. And
we were the band back together.
Yeah, getting the group, getting the old band back together. Had a great sergeant. Carlton Marshall was our sergeant. And we were on it, and that's what that night squad was. Their whole job was to chase dope, not answer calls, chase dope. So that night, actually, Joe Allen was my partner. Y'all know Joe. Mm-hmm. Because Egg wasn't feeling good, so he was working plain clothes that night. And so Rick Martinez and one other officer, I can't remember who it was. The name will come to me here in a minute. Found out about a drug house. They set up and watched it. They watched multiple people go back and forth. And so the plan was Egg was in plain clothes, so he was going to go up and knock on the front door so that when they looked through the peephole, they'd see someone in plain clothes. And then when they opened the door to make the sale, I'd step in front with uniform, and we would make the arrest at the scene, at the door. Well, instead of making the arrest, Egg knocks, they open the door, the guy sticks his hand out with the dope to make the sale. I grab the hand like an idiot, get in a fight, we crash through, and as soon as the door opens, a guy named Manuel Gonzalez shot me and Egg with a shotgun.
Where'd you get hit?
I got hit in the face, the shoulder, the forearm, the shoulder, and Egg was to my right, so I was covering his left side, so he got everything. He got some in the lung, in the shoulder, and in the face also. But it happened so fast, even in court, I couldn't even identify it because as soon as the door opened, boom, we got shot and went down.
It was just like a flash.
I mean, all I remember was a flash. And I remember laying on the ground on the carpet in the apartment. And I remember rolling over, and I remember seeing orange. It turns out it was the bottom of a couch. And you always go back to training. And I remember when I was in the academy, George Evenden and Jay Stevens telling us, if you ever go down, just move. And I remember just thinking, move, you got to move. And I crawled out into the on the sidewalk. And I was in a lot of pain because I was, I'd been shot and I couldn't move my arm and I was feeling my face and all I could feel was blood everywhere and I was freaking out. And I remember seeing Egg over there screaming and waving his gun up in the air, and I was worried about him. And I laugh about this today, but I remember this one young female officer comes over and she starts praying over me. Now, I'm a Christian. I don't mind you praying over me, but I remember yelling at her. I said, Becky, I'm not dead. We laugh about it now. It was serious at the time. I'm not dead. And anyway, the prayers obviously worked because I'm here.
Yeah, it did.
And anyway, and I remember, and the ambulance guys show up and haul us off to the hospital. And the whole time I'm trying to ask, how's Egg? How's my partner? How's my partner? And, everyone telling he's going to be okay. He's going to be fine. And we get to the hospital. And I remember this is when I realized that Parkland Hospital is nothing more than a machine. They have ways of doing things, and they don't give a shit if they inflict any pain on you or not, because their job is to keep you alive, not comfortable. And I remember on the table in there, they stripped all my clothes off, rolled me over. One doctor sticks his finger in my ass, and I remember, what are you doing? And it was
I've been shot in the face.
It was procedure. I said, okay.
Are you sure he was a doctor?
Yeah, I don't know,
And then the real doctor came in.
And then the real doctor came in.
Joe, were you at the hospital?
Yeah.
You didn't get a good look at him, right?
But the scary part of that was I heard one of the doctors saying we need to make sure we don't have to amputate his arm. Now that scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And then I went out, and then they knocked me out, and I woke up later on that night and all bandaged up. I still had my arm, so that was good. My wife was there.
And which arm was it?
My right arm.
And that's your gun hand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one shot?
One shot.
Buckshot?
Bird shot.
It was bird, okay.
Because all the BBs are still in me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They never took any of them out. Now you can.
Oh, I
Oh,
see
wow.
it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listener, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like a.
They were
like
trying to get to those with your finger.
Yeah.
That's how they would have got
It
there.
looks like a crackle, like a candy bar.
Yeah, there you go, or like a Nestle Crunch bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crackle.
Well,
Is that some sort of?
No, there's crackle.
No,
This
there's crackle.
is an odd reference.
But there was so much other parts of that. Like my wife was working that night.
can you say your wife's name? You
Kim
mentioned-
Crawford,
Okay.
a much better cop than I ever was, and
Shout out, Kim.
she was working that night, and of course when the shooting happened, the officers. I'm just going on what people told me. Obviously, that I'm assuming someone called 911, and also there were officers at the scene saying we need cover up here. We got 2 officers down. Well, my wife knew the area, and she just assumed, and she was working West Dallas, and so she said she started screaming north, code 3, and Carlton Marshall, one of the greatest sergeants you could ever work for, he called her. I don't know if he told her to go to 10 or if he called her on the phone. I think he told her to go to 10. And for listeners out there, 10 is a general conversation police radio channel. And he told her, slow down. He's going to be okay. Don't get in a wreck trying to get here, And she showed up. She went to the hospital with me and stayed with me. And but yeah.
How did that affect your marriage?
Made it stronger, yeah. Because that was, and my poor kids, they got pulled out of school, and remember my sister-in-law came over that morning to watch the kids, and because my wife called my brother, and he sent my sister-in-law over to get them ready, and she didn't know what to tell my kids. They were little. They were 7 and 5, I think, at the time, or 8, and I don't remember the ages exactly. But they got up and saw my sister-in-law, their aunt there, and then my aunt's like, your mom and dad got tied up at work, going to school. And then they got called out of school later, and Kim went up and got them, brought them up to the hospital. And then it was the long rehab and everything else. And that was a whole nother dealing with workers' comp. It was a nightmare. I remember, luckily there was a really good hand and arm doctor that loved the cops, loved police. And so because I was a cop, he accepted me as a patient. And so I got really good care for the elbow on down. The face, they couldn't find one, so I had to go to Parkland and sit in line with all the criminals and family violence suspects and everything else while they worked on my face, and it was a joke. But
they made you handsome now, so they did a good job. Mm-hmm. So you got great care. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What happened to the guy that shot you?
He actually just got out of prison. They charged him with 2 counts of attempt capital murder. He got found guilty of both. He was given 20 years. And I remember the DA telling us, he said, 20 years on this type, you should figure the max he'll do is about 18 and a half. And he actually did 18 and a half. Because every time he'd come up for parole, they would deny him. So
good. How old was the bad guy at the time?
My wife actually has his birthday memorized. I think he was 21, maybe. Something like that. Real young. Yeah. So.
Again, 2 years after getting into that one incident, and they're starting to stack up.
Yeah.
Now you almost get head blown off and arm blown off by a shotgun. What after that? Did you already have a child at this time?
I had 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So from your work ethic and what you love to do for fun and what you were great at, did that incident change your perspective on what you wanted to do for the rest of your career and what direction you were going to start going towards?
Well, I wanted to continue. I wanted to start training rookies as much as possible. I enjoyed doing that. I went to the academy, was a class advisor twice. Really enjoyed that because I just like the mentoring part of being. And I learned also, that I think one of the reasons why young cops get in trouble when they get out on the street is they don't have older mentors to teach them the right way to do things and still have fun doing it. I always thought that was the problem. Why you always see on the news when officers get in trouble now, it's always the South stations. And it always seems to me like there's a lot of turnover in those stations, so you don't have a lot of seniority, which we didn't have that issue in Northwest. I had 7-8 year officers that I worked around. That would, if you were about to do something stupid, they would look at you and call you a dumbass and say, "No, we don't do that." And you learned, and and if you don't have those older mentors, you're gonna, because we all know it's real easy to get in trouble unless you're just a good person. I shouldn't do that.
Well, I know we've had discussions in the past year that as good as the bid's been for people to move around, it's also been very detrimental to the department because there's no one wants to work down there. The senior people are going to take days off up north just so they're not working south.
The bid, I really think, in my opinion, hurt the department more because you can't have beat policing. You can't. Cops don't work one neighborhood long enough to get to know the people. Anyway,
well, everybody's so call driven right now too, and the climate and for police right now, that style of proactive policing is I don't believe is going on as much as when we were all out there.
Right,
but
Lance, after you were shot, did the department offer any type of mental health services at that point?
It was the same. It was worse. They told me to go visit Dr. Silma Davia. I saw him one time. He asked me if I was sleeping okay. I said yes, and I left. And that was the last time
Were you sleeping okay? Really?
No. Cool. But that's why I say it has to be, it's got to be pride out of cops. Pride meaning not P-R-I-D-E. It has to be pride, P-R-I-E-D.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can spell.
Look at that.
Why'd you Google that? He just Googled that.
That's one of the words I had written on my, yeah.
All right. 6 years later, you got into another wild-ass incident with a carjacker.
Yeah.
I want to keep stacking on these critical incidents. There's a point. There's a reason for this, too. Can you tell us about that one?
I was training rookies, training Nathan Heathcote. Shout out to Nathan. I think he's
I got an email from him yesterday. He's a detective.
Yeah.
I was big redheaded kid, right?
Mm-hmm. And so we get out of detail that morning, and Matt Nagy and his rookie. Now I don't remember Matt's rookie's name. We had been told in detail that Deep Nights had lost or that Farmers Branch had gotten into a car chase, and the guy wrecked out on Marsh Lane, and Deep Nights was out in Marsh and Clover area, south of Walnut Hill, looking for the guy. And so there weren't a lot of calls holding, so me and Matt and I decided, hey, let's take our rookies up there and let's go get on the ground and try to find this guy. So, okay. So we head up there, park our cars, and he's in one alley and with his rookie, and I'm in one alley with my rookie, and we're walking. And I remember walking, the rookie's like right behind me, and we're walking down an alley, and I remember hearing a ruckus, and I look behind me, and here's this long-haired, shirtless white guy with tattoos all over him coming over a fence.
Pat Starr?
Not that many tattoos.
Okay.
and he said long hair.
Yeah, and it said long hair. Yeah.
Okay.
And if Pat, you're listening,
he's well aware you're sitting with us today.
And coming over the fence, and so my rookie takes off. Nathan takes off after him, and he's chasing. I always laugh because Nathan is going over the fences with him. Well, I'm the one that I go to the gate and open it and go through. And
rookies are dumb that way because I got one of my rookies did the same thing. He's jumping this fence. I'm like, the
gate's right here.
Look for the door.
Work smarter, not harder.
It's like going in to clear a dark room. Reach over and turn the light on.
It can be that simple.
Yeah.
It's not TV, okay? And so the foot chase is on, and it is common knowledge in Northwest that I am not fast. I've only probably caught one person ever in a foot chase. And if Egg ever listens to it, yes, his name was Gummy Bear, the guy that I caught. So you can just kind of figure what his body looked like. But anyway, so we're chasing this guy, and we come out on the street, and I see Nathan. There's a like a Ford Explorer, it's a little SUV, at the stoplight. I mean, at the stop sign. Might have been Lively Lane, but it was at Marsh Lane, and the bad guy is carjacking the lady and her daughter, trying to get them out of the car so he can steal it. And the rookie is standing at the back with his gun pointed, yelling at the guy to stop. Of course, the guy doesn't have a gun, but the rookie's yelling, or Nathan's yelling at him. And so bad guy is trying to get in through the passenger door. So I run up to the driver's door, and just as and get the mom and the girl out, and I jump in the driver's seat because I'm figuring I'm going to jump in the driver's seat before he gets in the driver's seat and stop and turn the car off, and then Nathan's over here, we'll have him captured. Well, basically the bad guy, he gets his left leg onto the driver's seat. I get my right leg on the driver, and he slams the gas. And we go right out into the middle of Marsh Lane, which is a 6-lane road. And I can't turn the car off, so I'm trying to pull the emergency brake, and I finally get the brake pulled up, and we spin around, hit a tree. I literally fly out of the car. Bad guy flies out, takes off running because, bad guys never get hurt in car wrecks,
Or when they get shot.
Or when they get shot, they just keep on going. And he got caught. I ended up bruising some ribs and getting put in an ambulance. My wife was a detective then in Northwest, and she wasn't happy with me for when she got to the.
It was like the third time in 6 years she's had to come see you
in the ambulance. But aside from some knot on my forehead and a bruised rib, I got through that one okay. So, yeah.
Saved the lady and the kid.
And they were fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Car car was not, and there's still a big dent in the tree there where we hit. But
so you're not a kind of person that you didn't go past senior corporal, and you took a lot of pride in being an FTO, and you didn't want power, you didn't want to supervise people. A big part of policing, you can be a leader and a supervisor in the field at really any rank.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And
you did that.
as a FTO and just, I think so. Yeah.
You also weren't an award seeker either. Right?
No.
Okay.
No.
So, Chief, you have a little bit of information here on some awards that this man has.
So in the Dallas Police Department, there's the Medal of Honor and the Medal of Valor, and both of them are about as prestigious as they can get. You are only one of two officers in the history of the Dallas Police Department that's been awarded the Medal of Valor twice.
Me and Mark King.
Well, maybe there's three because there's another guy on there too.
Oh, okay.
But things have happened since. So.
Okay, yeah.
But it says to be awarded for exceptional bravery at imminent risk of serious bodily injury, with the recipient having demonstrated exceptional courage by performing a voluntary course of action in an extremely dangerous situation. The term voluntary course of action is the qualification, and it disqualifies all acts of courage, no matter how great, performed in the course of carrying out verbal or written orders. So that basically means you had to make the decision to do these courageous acts, and you've done it twice, Lance. You're a modern-day gunslinger. You truly are. And
gunslinger.
Hey, man, take it. Take it.
And Chief, he's actually going to get the gunslinger music on his episode.
Horrible. Horrible. Lance, you've always been a very humble man. How do you feel? And I know one of the Medal of Valor was for KJ, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I know you'd give that back tomorrow if you could.
Yeah.
But winning it twice, and you didn't slow down. What's your mindset behind that?
You just go. I think if you're an aggressive officer that likes to be out in the field, helping, doing the right thing, you're going to naturally put yourself, without thinking about it, you're going to put yourself in situations where things like that could happen. Matt Nagy and I didn't, when we went out to look for that car thief, we didn't have to do that. But we wanted to, because that's your job, number one. And there's a bad guy running around out there, and we wanted to go out and catch him. And I guess a lot of officers don't. I mean, they think, well, I'm just going to go out and whatever comes to me, comes to me. But I always wanted to be proactive because it was fun, and I don't how else. I don't know how else to answer that.
Did you get paid extra to be proactive?
No.
You didn't get a bonus check for?
No bonus checks.
More arrest than the other person?
No.
No.
Do you look at it as a gift or a curse?
A gift.
Why?
because you feel better at the end of the day that you did something. I used to, when I was training, especially when I trained in West Dallas, the goal was to go, I told my rookies, you got to go to jail twice and write 6 tickets. And believe it or not, it was pretty easy to do. But if you didn't do that, you felt like, well, I didn't do my job today. Because if you only arrest 2 people, there's 50 other ones out there that you didn't catch, And you got to be out in the middle of all that mess going on to try to catch them. You can voluntarily stay back and work minor wrecks on the freeway. And nobody will bat an eye at you about that. No chief will bat an eye at you about that. But you got to be out there in the middle of it, and I always liked doing that.
You worked in the era where there was lots of car chases.
Oh, yeah. Boy, I had some great car chases.
I like to ask, what's the best police vehicle? What's your favorite police vehicle that you drove?
The 1994 Chevy Caprice.
The Corvette engine.
With the Corvette engine. I did 140 miles an hour in that thing one time. Scared me to death.
Oh, listeners, if you could see the smile on
yeah. God, car chases were fun. So dangerous, but man, they were fun.
I'm about to pull up a picture to show you in a minute of the 94.
No, that's an ugly car. Don't get.
Oh, it's ugly as shit.
It's very ugly.
It was a tank.
The one where it's screeching the tires.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got. I remember me and Mike Morgan. I don't know if y'all know Mike or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got in the car. This was not a 94. We were in a 95 Chevy, which were dogs. But that would only do 121 miles an hour. We got in a car chase with a Corvette, and the only way we caught him was because he ran out of gas. But we were doing 121 miles an hour for about 20 minutes. And, you can go a long ways in 20 minutes. And it was got to bust through the DFW airport, the gate arms and all that stuff, and blow them up. It was so much fun.
Well, officers these days, we have such a strict chase policy now, and people don't realize how exhausting a car chase is. Physically and mentally. I mean, shit. The longest official time on a chase that I did, and it was through neighborhoods. It wasn't on a freeway or anything. It was 46 minutes, and I was my arms were
your
tired,
right foot hurts.
Yeah,
it goes numb.
Yeah, your right foot hurts from pushing on the pedal the whole time.
It was Pat Starr and I. We were at first we were punching the headboard all excited, and then after a while I felt like
you're like
I took a Benadryl.
Yeah.
Lance, how many recruits did you train approximately?
My wife and I were trying to count those up one time. I think I counted up about 40. Because you can't do it. You think you can only do if you train nonstop, you can only do 6 a year. So.
And when you retired, how many years do you have on?
33. Yeah.
I don't think you realize it, but you are a legend trainer. And when I was assigned to the academy, you were a go-to instructor for my recruit classes.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
So.
I never had the privilege of working with you, but your reputation.
Well, thank you for that.
And that you were the go-to instructor. And I loved to sit in your classes and listen to you teach.
And I wasn't crying back then either, probably.
There was no tears. It was just pure badassness.
We had a lot of fun.
There's still badasses right now, but
yeah, there's a lot of them out there.
No, I'm talking about you.
Oh.
Yeah, there are a lot of badasses out there, but yeah, you are the standard. And when she talks about legendary, and that word legendary, people throw it around, but it, as a trainer and as a field officer and somebody that did it for so many years, that is your reputation. I want you to know that. And your reputation isn't what you think of yourself. It's what everybody else thinks of you, and that's what they think.
Thank you for saying that.
I'll never look at a Crackle candy bar the same.
I actually Googled Crackle candy bar here in a minute. And I'm gonna be passing that pic around.
No, I've seen pictures on your phone, Joe, and I'm not looking at ever
I do not know what you're talking about. I want to get into the honor guard, and I want Chief to jump in here because he actually was with you on this, and I want what that task is. We've had on some other Chief talked about it, and also we had David Lindsay, the firefighter. He's the DFR's honor guard, for years. What that is, why it's so important, and what did that mean to you personally?
You asking me or Chief Foy?
No, go ahead.
It's your podcast, Lance.
He's already had his.
Okay.
Your turn, Lance.
After being involved, after KJ shooting and and I always felt like, to me, part of my therapy to myself was constantly talking about it. And that's why I started teaching about it at the academy and things like that. And then when the Honor Guard came around, I just couldn't think of any other way to honor all peace officers than to do that, than to work the funerals, to fold the flag, and what do you?
It's Joe has a picture of a crackle on his phone.
I'm sorry to derail you.
Talking about the honor guard, you're showing a crackle bar.
It was a terrible time.
And you know what?
Again, you drew me looking at your phone.
and it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, I know. He had an opportunity.
Has been a lot worse.
Yeah.
All right, proceed.
Okay. No, the Honor Guard. It's a way to give back to your fellow officers, and I used to tell Foy this all the time. Believe it or not, the retiree funerals are the ones that I loved doing, because you would go work a retiree funeral of some officer that retired in 1973, and his wife was 98 years old, and she would start crying because she was just so happy that her husband wasn't forgotten. And it was always so touching, because these officers are, they retired 40 years ago, and you'd show up and you would treat them just like you treated an officer that was killed in the line of duty. Well, not killed in line of duty, but a new rookie officer. They got everything. And they were just so thankful for that. And that always made me feel so good to let them know, let the family members know that their loved one wasn't forgotten. Handing that flag to them just made you feel so good.
Lance, I ran it for many years, and you were always my go-to guy when we had a last-minute funeral. They're all last minute. You can't prep for them, right? But if we had to go out of town, and I remember one trip in particular, you and another officer went to El Paso, and y'all went out there, y'all did the Honor Guard thing. But on the way back, y'all ran into a Fort Worth squad car. And then I started getting phone calls on the way back as y'all were racing down I-20 or on the way back.
It's actually Midland that we went to.
Was it Midland? Okay. But good job, Lance. Thanks.
Yeah, and I wasn't driving. I'm telling you, I was not driving. And no, we only raced the Fort Worth cop for a little while. And then we got too far ahead of him, and they backed
so you
off.
won.
Yeah, so we won.
All right, good representation.
Yeah. A lot of great stories.
You truly were one of the most dependable guys we had in the Honor Guard. And when you retired, it was a blow to our unit there, because there was only a handful that I could call up literally the day before and say, I need you to make a trip. That'll do it. And you always did.
I love doing that. I loved. You also another thing, because I would hear officers, our officers, always complaining about Dallas. I work for Dallas. This sucks. But when we as the Honor Guard got to go out, like to the National Police Week in D.C. or to Austin, mainly to national, and you would meet other agencies, they just thought Dallas was the greatest department in the world. And I'm looking at them going, what? What are you? And they go, oh no, y'all have the best reputation in the world. Y'all the best trained, most technologically advanced. And I'm looking at them like, I don't know about the technological part, but and you loved, and we all gripe and complain about DPD, but I was still so proud to wear that badge. I really was. I mean, I was just so proud.
You represented us so well. Like, you look amazing in your uniform, especially representing us with the Honor Guard. Such professionalism.
Well, the Honor Guard was, I thought, we had our down times, but I thought we did a great job.
Absolutely.
And even though Foy didn't think I could make it happen, we got to go to London one time. So.
Ooh.
He got plane tickets.
Lance, and I was, I've been working here for a while, and if it wasn't for you, y'all weren't going to go. If it would have been anybody else, because it was him,
well,
your reputation made that happen because you had some skins on the wall. I mean, no offense to you, but if you would come in, I don't know if it would have happened the same way. It was because of him.
Mm-hmm. I believe it.
yeah.
Absorbing all that sorrow and that goes along with the honor guard. How did you cope with that? I mean, how was that for you, absorbing so much energy and sorrow from the family, the peers, your friends that are being laid to rest, and just even the events with the history and that's involved, even just going up to a sports event and representing our department. How did you cope with that?
Well, it's very draining, especially National Police Week in D.C. Yes, there's a lot of fun, but when you would go visit the wall and see those families crying their eyes out, and then you see families that they would come up to you and just give you a hug, and because their son was a West Virginia state trooper and killed in a car wreck, and they were there, and they would give you a hug saying just thank you for being here, and you go, I don't even know who these people are, but they would just, and it would just, I mean, literally the emotional drain, you just want to go sit down on the curb and cry, and it's hard. It's just draining, but you have to do it because the families deserve that. I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it did. And again, it's another just testament to you and the person you are, and the just pure service, and giving a shit about other people.
Yeah.
Speaking of giving a shit about other people, you and your wife were heavily involved with the DPA and the ATO.
Yeah.
Right. Can you talk about that and why that was why yet again? Why was that important to you?
Because we enjoyed giving back to the DPA. When I hired on, there was only the DPA, and it was a year or two later when the union was formed, and I just never understood why anybody. People complained about the DPA, but I was actually a rep I was actually a rep in '99 for 2 years, and so I got to come in here and see how things were done, and you saw how much the DPA does for Dallas, for the officers, and surrounding agencies, and then so you see that and you think, well, I mean, if the Eddie Crawford and Tom Popkin and all those guys if they can spend their weekends helping us, why can't I come every other Saturday and do this? Or why can't I stay late? And why can't I go work a race that the DPA's putting on? And then, of course, when the ATO came out, that's even more to help it. And then when they had the Kevin James endowment, KJ was a friend of mine, so I try to help out on that as much as I can. And you just want to give back to the police association because they do a lot. And you can gripe, and that's what I'd hear people complain and moan and groan and say, well, the DPA can't. Nothing's 100%. They can help. You're going to help somebody over here, but you're always going to piss somebody else off, and you just got to look at the big picture.
I wish we don't do it the same way anymore. But I know when I first started here, you and Kim were always penciled in for the Freedom Run.
Oh yeah,
just about anything. And
the Cops Cop Bank.
Cops Cop. You were 2004. You were the Cops Cop winner. She won too, didn't she?
She was a
monthly winner.
A monthly winner. Yeah.
And it's one of these things. I hope these young officers listening can realize that and give back to and pay it forward, because we can't do what we do without officers like you doing what they're doing, like Joe's doing, and what even Misty's helping doing, because she's been a cop's cop. Joe was a cop's cop. Maybe we didn't nominate Foy for.
Nah, he's chief now.
I was there many years ago, Randy.
Yeah, like Randy says, it's in Lance. It is. There's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes into this, and giving back, because the ATO, if you have the confidential counseling, if you have an injury and illness, it doesn't matter what association you're a part of. They come in and help, right?
And I'll let you know, these officers are using counseling now. They're seeking it out and doing a lot better. I don't know if it's just because society's changed or that stigma's been wiped away, but these officers are taking advantage of the counseling now compared to, it's grown so much over the past 10 years. I can't even describe. We went from just a handful of counselors. Now we have more new ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's wild how much it's grown.
Well,
it's big now, Lance. I'll have to. Yeah, I'll show you offline of how many counselors the ATO has now, and it's up like 300% of officers utilizing that since 7/7. Really,
and Justin and Ed are doing a better job of making sure. I think we're going to put some numbers on the website coming soon, letting know how much of an impact we're doing with money that goes out and how many people we're actually touching. So it's going to try to be more transparent in that.
What's sad is the city should be doing that. They're your boss. They should be doing it. We know they won't, but I'm glad the ATO's doing it, because they, like I said, that stuff has to be pried out of cops, and you got to just talking about it. There's all the horrible stuff we see.
But that's what this podcast is for. It's to give people of all races, ages, organizations, tenured on, a platform to tell stories like this. You've got your stories. You've got a lot of stories, and people are going to listen. They're going to learn. They're going to feel, and that's what it's for. If your story can help one person, right, it's worth it. And your story, it's so inspiring, really. I got one question for you to wrap this up. What would you tell a young officer just graduating the academy, the best tool that they could work on and just work on to help carry them through a 2-decade plus career?
You got to keep a sense of humor. You have to have thick skin. You got to find a way to make the job fun. We, the older officers, always say, well, I don't know how the younger guys could ever be, I don't know how y'all can do this job anymore. We couldn't, but the younger officers don't. That's all they know. All they know is what they're learning now. So you got to find a way to have fun doing the job the right way. And it can be done. It can be done. If you are coming to work and you're miserable, well, that misery is going to turn into a horrible call for you one night, and you're going to get hurt, get fired, get in trouble. Find a way to make the job fun and do it the right way. Yeah.
That's a perfect way to wrap it up. I've been excited about this all week, and actually didn't sleep much last night because I was nervous about sitting with you. I was hoping you wouldn't bring up that picture I showed you.
It's probably because you were looking at that picture.
Well, I've been looking at this whole time we're sitting here talking.
Of course, now
eating a cracker.
Everyone that listens to this podcast is going to want to know, what is that picture?
No,
hey, everyone, most of the people listening to this podcast have gotten pictures from him, so they know. They're just going to wonder which one.
Lance, thank you for your service. Thank you for being so inspiring to me, and being there for other officers to make them better, stronger, and harder to kill.
Thank you.
I'm going to use your words. Thank you for doing a career of doing it the right way. It's amazing.
Thanks. Thank you.
Good. Thanks, Lance.
Appreciate it, Lance. Good job.
Thanks for having me.
Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. Down when you're lonely, I'll pull you up. Life leaves you heavy when the going gets tough. I'll be your shoulder, together we'll run up from the bottom, yeah, we'll rise above. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far the sun and the moon, I'll never give up on you. I'll never give up on you. Hey brother, hey sister, I'll never give up on you. Hey Mrs., hey mister, I'll see this all the way through. No matter how far, for the gold and the blue, I'll never give up.